Have you ever been confused or frustrated because sometimes you have back and neck pain, sometimes you don't, the next day you do, you feel like you haven't done anything to cause it, you've never had it before, or this certain pain, and yet now you do. But again, you feel like you haven't done anything different to cause it. Or have you? Well, that's what we're going to dig into today on Back Talk with Dr. Ryan. I'm Dr. Ryan Wolfert, and my ultimate goal is to help you build a strong spine so you can live an active life forever without depending on drugs and doctors and surgeries and procedures, and ultimately be your own guarantee for your health and your life. So as we get started, just want to mention, if you have any questions, comments, go ahead and leave them in the chat. If you're watching this on a recording, definitely leave the comment below. But we're going to dig right into this because it's actually pretty simple why you feel the pain that you do. If you are in pain, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you have some type of back pain, because we're talking about hidden causes of back pain, which will include the neck in with that. And really what happens is, I'll simplify it for you into three main stresses. Stress, not just mental stress, that's one of them, but there's accumulation of these three stresses that we put into and onto our body over and over and over again repeatedly. So we have physical stress, we have chemical stresses, and we have mental/emotional stresses. Now there's also, I would even say, a fourth type called spiritual stress as well, but we can include that even with the mental and emotional stress. Okay. So first, physical stresses. This is what I would say you probably think of if you have pain. What did you do physically to cause it if you have back pain? So accidents, falls, traumatic events, car crashes, falling, even as a kid when you're learning how to walk and falling down. Those are all physical types of stresses, more traumatic, more acute type. But there's also a chronic type stresses that we place on our body, or you might place on your body over and over again, that you're not completely sure about, or you don't equate that with the pain that you're feeling. Like, for example, poor posture over and over again, looking at your phone, at your computer, sleeping on propped up pillows, driving in a hunched over position or shifted to the side. Maybe you are sitting behind your desk too long, having a sedentary lifestyle, not getting up and allowing your spine, allowing your back, your body to move the way it's intended. Think about all the different postures that you get into strenuously. Maybe you're doing yard work. Maybe you've played sports before. I've already mentioned sleeping and driving. A lot of times I hear, I must have done something, or must have slept wrong. Sometimes that's the case. But I would say most of the time, what you do during the day will set you up for what you feel the next day. So if you are putting a lot of physical stress by your postures, bending, lifting, sitting too much, squatting incorrectly, again, these chronic type, not long term, but these low-level chronic postures and stresses that are placed on your body, that you're placing on your body, that maybe you don't even know that you're doing, or are not great for your spine. Okay, so that's number one, is the physical stresses that you're placing on your body. Number two, the chemical stresses. So what are we talking about there? The nutrition, right? The dietary things. What type of foods are you eating? So if we're talking about chemical stresses, so processed foods, ultra processed foods with dyes and toxins and sugar, tons of added sugar in there, not getting enough clean water. That is a chemical stress, right? Because you're not getting enough. So therefore that is a stress. We're talking about different drugs, whether over the counter or prescribed medications. These cause a stress inside your body because it's foreign to it. It doesn't, sometimes or many times it doesn't know how to process it, or it makes it work, your body work too hard to process it. Smoking, alcohol, soda pop. These are all chemical stresses that we place in our body. Pollution, Again, I mentioned different types of toxins, whether that's in your, different plastics that you might be exposed to. So those are more chemical type things that are, again, going into your body. Your body can deal with a certain amount of stress without it causing pain. But when it accumulates, that's when it creates a problem. So that leads us into even the third part, which, you're thinking, okay, how can mental and emotional stress cause back pain? I don't want to get even deep into the woods with that, but your body's like a reservoir for all the different emotions and thoughts that you have uh, during the day or even in your life. So if you are constantly in a negative mindset, if you're frustrated, if you're worried, if you're fearful, anxious, sad, or depressed, these are all emotions or and even thoughts. You're thinking bad about yourself or other people, comparing yourself to others. These all cause this mental and emotional stress, which can have definitely effect on your body, causing it to getting in these poor postures, but just in general, how it puts head trash in the brain that it has to deal with. And now you're wasting resources, okay, by dealing with those and thinking about those rather than healthy serving thoughts and emotions, which help build the body up. So these are sources of, where these mental and emotional stresses can come from, which you probably have figured out. All different aspects of life, right? Your relationships, your home life, your work life, kids, grandkids, your health, finances, career. These are all sources of stress, which cause the thoughts and emotions and behaviors that we're taking that aren't serving for your body and spine. So just to reiterate, physical, chemical, emotional stresses, just simplify it. Go throughout your day and think, okay, what am I doing to my body physically? What am I doing to my body and spine chemically? Or how's that affecting my spine and my pain, my back, my neck? The chemicals that I'm putting into my body, the things that are man-made, not from nature. Emotionally, mentally, what are the things I'm thinking, feeling? What are those emotions and how those are affecting my inner being, my even my physical being? Because mental and emotional stress, here's a little secret, can cause physical pain. Just, think about an easy one is when you've been worried or fearful or anxious, or again, one of these non-serving emotions, and you might get a stomach ache. Your heart might race. You might get short of breath. You might even get, tightness in the upper part of your back. I've heard that before too. So that's just a little example of how your mental / emotional state has an effect on your physical body and how it affects that and how it can cause pain. All right, so that simplifies it for you. But just so remember, it's not just the thing that you lifted yesterday. I lifted a couch yesterday. I slept wrong. It's the accumulation of that. And I'm going to share my screen because I want to show you what happens with this, because it's called the crooked man. Where are we at? Here we go. Real simple, real quick. So that's the crooked man. Okay. You see how these stresses, physical, chemical, emotional stresses, causes imbalance in the body and especially the spine, and cause it to get all out of whack, all crooked. So that's why we call it the crooked man. I'm showing you this, from the back, but this is also the most common one that you see is when looking at you from the side is that slumped posture, right? That's what we think when we think poor posture, poor spinal health is that. But there's also this part where you can be shifted to the side and bent to one side or the other. And that's what we call the crooked man. And it puts these distortions inside of the spine, and that stress causes the spine to get imbalanced, the joints to get imbalanced. Because even look at the knee, look at the hips, look at even the feet, puts pressure and irritation on the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, the bones. And because the spine houses the nervous system, the spinal cord, and The brain has to get those signals through the spinal cord uninterrupted, unimpeded to every single cell, tissue, and organ through the spinal cord, which is inside the spine, protected again by the spine. If the spine is not in the correct alignment, not the correct structure, well, now it's stress on that. And over time, that irritation on the nervous system, on the spine, on the muscles, bones, ligaments, discs will cause poor health and pain. So you have to ask yourself, do we want to, you know, we've said this before, but it's worth saying again. Do we want to just keep masking the symptoms that it's caused by an imbalanced spine, or do we actually want to look at the actual causes? Do we want to look at the structure of your spine, the structural problems, because it should have a certain shape, just like you have, there's a normal healthy blood pressure. There's normal hormone levels and normal blood sugar, and ideal for health and function. The spine is the same way. And it allows your body to function at its highest level, because then the brain, which controls all the function of the body by sending communication, that energy, that electricity through the spinal cord to every single cell, tissue, and organ in your body. So if we just treat and mask symptoms, if we, instead of addressing the underlying issues, your nerves are going to still get irritated. Your body is not going to heal itself well, because health and healing comes from the nervous system. And then when your body's not healing and it's using resources just to survive where it is, because it's trying to deal with those physical, chemical, and emotional stresses, it's going to eventually wear down and it's going to break down. And that's when you start feeling the pain even more and more and more. It might not just be a little bit of tightness. It actually might be, a blown out disc. You might not just have simple, little tension headache here and there. Maybe it progresses to even migraines. Maybe instead of just a little neck pain where you can still move your neck, now it's like completely locked up, because it just keeps adding up, and you're not doing enough things to counteract that. You're not creating enough healing and balance in the spine in order to do that. So this, goes along with it. If you want to know, and I'll go over it shortly, it's called the Eaton method. If you want to have this breakdown, just a simple little, I did this 1-page spinal hygiene mini class, just type in spine into the comments and I'll get that sent out to you. Okay. But I wanted to mention that here. So just in case I forgot that, because I want to make sure that you get that. But I want to just give some examples. I like giving examples and analogies as to, okay, why do you feel it now and you didn't before? You didn't do anything different. You feel like you didn't do anything to cause the pain, or in maybe, again, in 24 plus years of being in the spinal health field, being a practicing chiropractor, the one I've heard, the comment I've heard is, I've never had that before. Okay, well, you might have said that about having maybe you haven't, but think about getting a cavity in your tooth. And I think many people have had a cavity in their tooth where they haven't felt it. It's been underlying, right? It's been because of the stress of the food that we're eating, or not brushing our teeth, not doing our dental hygiene, just like we need to do spinal hygiene on a daily basis to keep our spine strong so we can live an active life. And that's what the Eaton method is. And again, I'll explain it in a second. Same thing with your teeth. You can get a cavity that starts, you don't feel it right away, but then if it gets bad enough, now you start to get the tooth pain because it irritates the nerve, irritates the gums, because your brain and body's like, you know what, I don't want to deal with this anymore. What about, let's say, like heart disease or cancer? Let's stick with heart disease or a heart attack. If you have a heart attack, again, I don't want to get too morbid, but let's say you have a heart attack, hopefully not you, but you know somebody who had a heart attack. One day, on Monday, But were they healthy and completely functioning at 100% on Sunday? No, because those blood vessels, they were getting plaque inside of them. They were getting closed up to where now 80 to 90% of it has to be occluded for it to actually have the heart attack. But that doesn't mean that you were completely healthy. And that doesn't mean, okay, I did something different on Sunday night that caused me to have a heart attack on Monday. No, it was the accumulation of the stresses that was placed on it. It's the same thing with the spine, same thing with pain. Okay. Cancer is another thing. It grows inside you for weeks, months, maybe even years. And maybe there's not even any symptoms or minimal symptoms until it gets bad enough. So these things can happen in our body because it's our body and our spine, it's built to handle a certain amount of stress until it gets bad enough. And the old saying, it's a straw that broke the camel's back, to where all of a sudden now you woke up and you had pain. And we think, okay, it's how I slept. Well, that could have been the straw that broke the camel's back. You bent down very simply to pick something up off the floor. Nothing heavy, but just something like a pencil or your phone or whatever it is. And your back goes out. You look in the back seat or you look behind you while you're driving. All of a sudden, oh, your neck seizes up. Those are the straws that broke the camel's back. It's not the one thing that did it. It's the accumulation of stresses. It's not the 1,000 pounds that you lift one time that causes a sprain or a strain. It's the 1 pound that you lift 1,000 times without counteracting it and doing it in a healthy way. So that is, essentially how your body feels the pain. And I already mentioned it a little bit, but just because you don't feel pain, or maybe not that severe, or you feel fine, doesn't mean you're completely healthy. For our purposes right now, we're talking about pain and back pain especially. So we'll stick with that, but we want to have proactive measures even when we don't have pain, to make sure our spine and our back is nice and healthy, is in the most functional, optimal position structurally and how it functions as possible. And I mentioned it already, the Eaton method, EATN. And what this stands for is exercise, adjust, traction, and nutrition. So exercise, we want general spinal exercises. Again, this is what that spinal hygiene mini class talks about. Like, just, again, very simply, something you can do for 2 minutes each day, just like you brush your teeth for 2 minutes, making sure you're moving your spine. All right. So adjust. That doesn't mean like a chiropractic adjustment, because if I'm here and you're there, I can't physically adjust you. But what this means in this respect is adjust your lifestyle. How can you adjust how you bend, how you move, how you sit, how you hold your phone, how you are at the computer, sleep, these different type of postures. So again, that's why I included it in the spinal hygiene mini class, the traction. And there's no cost for this mini class. You just type in spine and I'll send it to you. The traction, that is something that's unique that not many people do or know about, but that is a supportive type of traction or corrective type of traction that reshapes and remolds and remodels the spine into the actual position. And this is something that's greatly missed by, 95% of the population, maybe even 99% of the population, because we have to hold the spine in the healthy position for a certain amount of time, over time, for it to reform in its new position. Very similar to how you put braces on teeth. Now, the definitive way to know what your spine looks like is through standing spinal x-rays. I highly encourage you to get those done. If you need help finding somebody, again, comment below and I will help you out with that, because it's that important. Now, the N, that's the nutrition, right? Nutrition and even the hydration. So it deals with the chemicals that we put into our body. We want it, whole foods, vegetables, fruits. The way I love to do it is with smoothies. So that's one of my preferred ways of doing it, but I love salads as well. making sure we get enough protein, different types of vegetables, different types of fruits, cycling them through so we get a full array of the minerals, of the enzymes, of the vitamins of these, okay? So the most important thing, or one of the most important things I implore you and patients, because it is the most common question I get asked, is why do I have pain? I hope I answered that for you. I hope you understand even a little bit more now of how this can happen. So when you, if or when you wake up with a new pain, a different pain, or something happens that you don't know how it happened, you're like, okay, don't just think back to the day before, but think back to the days, the weeks, and even the months. How are you taking care of your body? It's not a quick fix. It's not a pill or a potion or a surgery that's going to fix it, because it's the simple and consistent activities that we do on a daily basis, that we do for our spine, for our body, that helps it to heal and take the stress off the nervous system so your body can actually heal. Your body is meant to heal. It is meant to, just like if you cut your hand, it heals without you really having to do anything to it. If there's more stress placed on it, it might take longer, but your body can heal inside and out. It comes from there. So, like I said, type in spine, SPINE, in the comments or the chat, and I'll definitely get you that spinal hygiene mini class. So I'm going to just pause right here, take a drink, and I'm going to look at the chat. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put it in the chat, and I'll type in right here. Okay, and if not, I do have something else planned. Okay. Well, thanks for being here, everybody. It's great. I know in the email I sent, I said I was going to do this once a month. I'd probably do it even more than that, because I'm breaking it up. I was going to talk about like maybe 3 or 4 different topics, but for my own bandwidth, I'm going to talk about 1 or 2, really dig into one, and then we'll even touch on another topic if there's not any other questions. And actually what I'm going to do too, I'm going to drop this in the chat. Sorry, I just thought about this now. I'm going to drop the link to the spinal hygiene mini class into the chat, so then you can go and grab it there. Okay. All right. All right. So let's do this. Thanks for bearing with me. Guys are doing great. Thank you. Let's get this other topic all queued up. Thank you. All right. One more little sip. Actually, I want to show that to you. Like that. I was a little disappointed. I lied. I'm going to go back. I want to show you my new shirt. BYOG. Be your own guarantee. I'm a little upset you can't see it while I'm on there, so I wanted to back up and show you. All right. All right. Anyway, let's get going. All right. Next thing. So, I talk about having a strong spine and living an active life, and the strong spine being able to help you get there. What the heck does that mean? What does a strong spine actually mean? Who cares? Why do you care if you have a strong spine? What does it look like? What does it mean for your health? So essentially, a strong spine means it's structurally integral, or it has structural integrity and alignment. It's lined up aligned with gravity, so you're not wasting a ton of resources trying to stand upright. So having a strong spine does not mean, okay, I can lift a bunch of weights, or I can, put a bunch of weight on my back, or carry some buckets with a bunch of weight. Having a strong spine is a little bit different than that. So think about, again, this structural integrity. just like you want a nice tall building, the taller the building, the more structurally sound it needs to be, the more level it has to be. It has to have a solid foundation. And if your foundation is crooked, that's going to cause the upper part, your spine, to get crooked as well or out of place. And it's going to put way too much stress on the bones, the ligaments, the muscles, the joints, the discs, the spinal cord, the nervous system that's coming out, that's protected by your spine, because it's going to be fighting so much with gravity. It is your central support. Your spine is a central support. So the farther it is away from gravity, that center of gravity, the more it's going to struggle. So as an example, what I want you to do, probably not now, you might not have something at arm's length that you can get to that's 10 to 15 pounds. But let's say you take a 10 to 15 pound weight and you put it out in front of you, and you're trying to hold that with your arms just outstretched in front of you. Take, if you have a grandbaby, a baby, whatever, outstretch your arms. You wouldn't hold that there or them there or that object there for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, or even minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes, unless you were doing it as a workout, because it makes your body work harder. It's farther away from the center of gravity. So the farther your posture is, your spine is away from that center of gravity, the more it has to work. Just like the more you have to work, your muscles have to work by having an object that's 10 to 15 pounds or any type of weight farther away from your body. And I say 10 to 15 pounds because in general, that's about the size of your head. So if your head goes forward, causing this rounded posture, well, that's like you trying to hold the weight, and it's constantly trying to just deal with the downward pull of gravity. Those muscles are tightening up. The ligaments are breaking down, and it's taking that shape the longer that you're in there. So without that central support of being centered with gravity, everyday activities become harder and harder. Walking, running, sitting, sleeping. Okay. And it can also reinforce that poor posture too. So when you have a strong spine, when it's from the front, it's straight up and down. And from the side, it's ear over the shoulder, over the hips, over the ankles. And your spine has three equal curves to it that help absorb the stress. So it can withstand the forces that are being placed on it. And when it gets misaligned, think about driving a car with misaligned steering, where the wheels are misaligned. Causes more wear and tear on the wheels, and also causes the car to break down too fast. When it's the spine, well, there's going to be increased stress on certain areas, causing that to break down. And that breakdown can lead to pain, arthritis, degeneration, and then it just keeps going that way in reinforcing unless we do something to counteract it, which again is the Eaton method: exercise, adjusting your lifestyle, traction, and nutrition. Those are the things that can help to correct it. And I want to show you an actual study showing how this forward head posture and kyphosis, it's called, or I should say thoracic hyperkyphosis, affects the spinal cord and how your body heals. Let me share my screen for a second. Again, I'm not going to read through this. I'm just going to summarize it for you, but I want to show you where this is and what it says. So this is in the Journal of Clinical Medicine. This is last year, 2023. And so thoracic hyperkyphosis, or just kyphosis, is a rounding of the upper back. And so it showed, okay, well, let me give you a little background. So it looked at that and chronic neck pain and disability and sensory motor control, like how your body can move and reproduce itself in space, like basically the motor control and the sensations. So it compared people with a significant hyperkyphosis, significant kyphosis, which was over 55 degrees, and a normal kyphosis. So, what was the impact on neck pain, disability, sensory motor control, autonomic nervous system function? So, the autonomic nervous system, so that's like your digestion, your metabolism, your heart function, how you breathe, how you process food. So, autonomic, think automatic, these things that automatically happen. So, people with a significant hyperkyphosis or above that 55 degrees experience greater neck pain and disability. What does that mean? Disability, you're disabled, can't work, can't live, not just work, but just live the life that you want to live. So dysfunction was also in muscle coordination and dysfunction in the nervous system response. Remember, the nervous system is the pathway to health because that's the brain sending signals down through the spinal cord. And when in this hyperkyphosis and then the forward head posture, remember, getting farther away from that center of gravity, the weight isn't distributed, more stress and pressure and stretching on the spinal cord, shutting down those nerve signals going throughout your body. So that's how, again, it's so important to address this thoracic kyphosis, as well as all the different unstructurally sound, misaligned pieces of the spine. And the best way to unshare, sorry. So the best way to find out what your spine actually looks like is from a qualified, usually chiropractic practitioner. And if you have trouble finding somebody, just again, reach out to me, comment below, and I will help you find somebody in your area. And if not, then I'll do what I can, because the x-rays are that important, standing spinal x-rays. It's like looking under the hood, or it's like a mechanic looking under the hood when you take your car in to get serviced. You don't want to tell them, you hear a click and a rubbing sound and a thump, but you tell them, okay, you can't open the hood, you can't look under the hood, you can't go underneath, to look, don't put it up on the lift to find out. They have to do it to be definitive on what's going on. It's the same thing with standing spinal x-rays, but unfortunately, there's a limited number of doctors who know how to do this, even though you see how important it is to know what your spine looks like. If you don't do that, again, your posture is a good measure. It's a window into the spine and nervous system. So, is it as accurate? No. But if you find yourself hunched over, if you find yourself if you're laying down on your back, like on the floor, even in bed, and you can't have a pillow underneath your head and neck because your head won't touch, that's a sign that you have that thoracic hyperkyphosis. If you put your back up against a wall and walk your feet away about 2 to 4 inches and lean up against it, and your hips are against it and your mid back is against it, like between the shoulder blades, and it's hard for you to get your head to touch, again, that's a sign of thoracic hyperkyphosis. And that means, okay, the weight, when you have these imbalances, when you don't have a strong spine, when the spinal curves are out of alignment or not present, or you're crooked, like in our crooked man, the weight is not distributed evenly. Think about it wearing a backpack. If you put a heavy backpack on, your body is going to have to compensate, especially if it's heavy, but even if it's not, if it's poorly positioned, if it's down too far, your body's going to have to adapt to it. It's the same thing with your posture. The weight is not going to be distributed. More resources are going to be used. It's going to predispose you to injury. Now, when you do have a strong spine, it's going to be distributed a lot easier or a lot more evenly. When you have a strong spine, this is a huge one, because all too often we say, okay, it's because I'm getting older that I'm healing slower. Well, one of the reasons also can be is because the spine houses the nervous system. It controls your movements and also controls your immune response, controls how your body functions and heals. So when you have an aligned spine, it takes the stress off the nervous system and you can have more efficient healing. I mentioned this, in a previous video. Your body can heal itself. I'm going to keep harping on this because you felt it in your life. I know that you have. You have felt your body heal itself. Because I'd be shocked if you didn't have a cut on your arm or leg, or bump your elbow, or had a bruise. And I'm pretty confident that it healed on its own without you having to do much of it. If you cut your hand, maybe you put a Band-Aid on it, and maybe when you were younger, it healed faster, but that's because your body had less stress on it. But you can decrease the stress on your body by counteracting this using the Eaton method: exercise, adjusting your lifestyle, traction, and the nutrition, which I'll, again, reiterate here in a second. So it's putting your body in a better position, more aligned with gravity, so it can be more structurally sound. That's what a strong spine is. It's not just lifting a bunch of weights or being able to lift heavy weights or lifting a heavy box. It's having those 3 equal curves from the side. It's making sure that your spine is straight up and down from the front. I said I wasn't going to do this, but I am, just so you can see. So I'll put it right there. Again, from the side, we have these curves, one in the neck, one in the mid-back. So that is the kyphosis, and then one in the low back. And these are all balanced out. You need to have these balanced. Okay. See? There we go. Got to have that behind me. Good. So how do we do that? So I'm going to go over this again, just so that you have it. Yeah, that's how you learn, is through repetition. So how do you achieve a strong spine? We eat, not just food, but EAT, specific postural exercises, where, yes, up straight, or wherever your postural distortion is. And since we talked about thoracic kyphosis and forward head posture, which is the most common postural distortion, let's just focus on that. Putting your back against the wall and then practicing taking your head back. But this is where I differ from maybe other videos that you see on the internet. It's not just taking the chin back, okay? Because that can actually straighten the spine. That's why I encourage everybody to get spinal x-rays, standing spinal x-rays, to see what your curve is. Because if you do this and it straightens it out even more, which is one of the most common things, is it's too straight. Well, now you're stretching the spinal cord even more. But in general, what you can do, back up against the wall and then taking your head back, okay? Almost like that bone right there, tipping it back against the wall with your back up against here, the hips up against there, and seeing if you can touch it and holding it there for a period or 5 to 10 seconds and relax. 5 to 10 seconds and relax while you're driving, using the headrest, pushing it back into the headrest. But again, I will always encourage you to get standing spinal x-rays of your entire spine so you know how to do it and what's the best for you. Adjusting your lifestyle. We talked about this. When you bend, sit, stand, walk, lift, carrying things, lying down, making sure that you're in an upright posture, sitting down, looking at your phone, standing, looking at your phone. So most of us have one of these, right? I bet you have one of these. We want to lift it at least chest level, but even more eye level, okay? We don't want it down here where it's causing us to have that prolonged forward flexed posture, because that's going to cause stress and strain. Your weight isn't going to be distributed evenly, which cause your body to not heal as fast because it puts more stress, and the resources allocated to healing will now be taken somewhere else. So adjusting how you bend, move, lift. We've all heard about lifting. It's learning how to keep in the spine neutral and using the hips to move. It's in the chat, but I'll put it in the comments too. If you type in spine, if you're watching this on the replay, type in spine. I'll send you my spinal hygiene mini class. Traction. What is traction? It's the remolding of your spine by holding the spine in the healthy position for a certain period of time. It's not just the decompression maybe that you've seen in the past. If you are old enough, you probably remember the Andy Griffith episode where Barney Fife tried to make himself taller by doing some decompression, and he was pulling straight up. So that's a form of traction. But this is what I'm talking about, is reforming and remodeling the curves of the spine. So then it takes the pressure off of the nervous system, allows the spinal cord to be relaxed, allows the discs, the muscles, the joints, the ligaments to actually, when I think about it, just to relax them. So again, that's all explained in the spinal hygiene mini class, how to use towels to do that. And nutrition, so that's the N, eating method, nutrition, making sure that you're hydrated, making sure that you get the right nutrients to help build the body back up, because your body can heal, your spine can heal. The problem is we put too much stress on it, or maybe, yes, too much stress on it, physically, chemically, emotionally, without doing things to counteract it. I'll tell you this, I'm not getting rid of my phone. I'm not getting rid of my computer. I won't be able to talk to you if I did that. So I better do things, and I believe you better do things to counteract the stresses that we're placing on our body. Do I eat 100% healthy foods every single time? No, but I need to eat healthy foods a lot more than I eat unhealthy foods if I want to have the resources and build my body and give it the raw materials in order to make sure my spine and body stays healthy. So hope you enjoyed this. And I'm gonna do this more often. If you enjoyed it, definitely give me a thumbs up. Remember, leave spine in the comments. And if you're in the live chat, so Desiree, great comment, spine, you want it. So I put that right there in the chat already. If you click on that, drwolfert.com there, /spinal hygiene, it'll take you right to the page. So that's right there for you. I'll put it in the description of this video as well.